I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
We've got the same dad.
But we didn't meet until you were really old.
Thanks for that. So, this is the podcast where
we make up for lost time
by sharing an album that
your
brother
should
know. Hello, everybody, and this episode of Your Brother Should Know, I am going to share with my much younger brother, Rob, Stevie Wonder talking book. Before we get into it, as ever, first question, Rob, when I said Stevie Wonder talking book, what did you think?
I mean, let's be honest, Dave. This is a bit of a... We're really stretching the premise of our podcast with this. Nobody on the planet doesn't know Stevie Wonder, and I'd be lying if I said I hadn't come across his album and was unaware of it. However, you have prompted me to really listen to it for the first time ever, and to really actually I'd appreciate his artistry, because yeah, sure, I knew Stevie Wonder. Who doesn't know Stevie Wonder? He's like the definition of a musical icon. I mean, I guess because he's just kind of there, a bit like the Beatles or Chopin, you just kind of take him for granted. And sure, yeah, I mean...
I get the Beatles, but Chopin. First thing that comes to mind, Stevie Wonder, Chopin, of course.
But that's my point. He's a genius.
They both play a bit of piano, you know.
Yeah, sure. And guess what? I mean, that's it. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, Dave. I bought a copy of Talking Book from a charity shop for probably 50p back where 20 years ago. Probably never played it because it was so scratchy. And I guess what? I bought another copy from a charity shop a couple of years ago. Now I'm a grown man. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think I ever got around to playing it. So you've made me sit down and actually listen to it. And oh my God, I don't know if we need to wait for a big reveal because come on.
Wait. We'll get to that. So yeah, apologies. I mean, but I've got to say, in my mind, this was like another Elton John pitch in that you got to remember, my musical fruition came in the 80s. So there's a generation of people for whom, yeah, they've heard of Stevie Wonder, but what they first think of is I Just Called to Say I Love You.
Oh.
That was number one for about a gazillion years. Ebony and Ivory with Paul McCartney. So I didn't know if you were in the same place. And that's interesting because when I say to people, oh, Stevie Wonder, because we'll come on to it, I bought the classic albums. A lot of people in my generation are like, Stevie Wonder, because all they know is the sort of soft 80s crap. But your generation, is he the kind of, quite rightly, soul, funk, jazz, amazing icon that he should be? Because my generation perhaps sees him as a bit kind of, light pop, bit crap, bit laughable sometimes.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely that element of the kind of like, I mean, Superstition is so overplayed, and it's a bit of a, I do think he kind of is... there's a reason I ignored him is we don't ever got into him because it's funny how when you're doing your homework you go through and you do listen to all the other tracks. Like I did Marvin Gaye, like I did all the records there. But I never got to Stevie, and I don't know why. And I really hate myself for that. But I would say my preconceptions were actually probably the early '60s Motown stuff because when I was growing up, my mum and our dad had, a CD of that early stuff, and that got some pretty heavy rotation. And some of it's great, like, obviously I'm thinking of My Cherie Mia or whatever it's called, that stuff's lovely, but it's not this, right?
It wasn't not groundbreaking music like of which you've never heard before or since. Yeah. Well, it's probably let's just do the very everybody knows Stevie Wonder, but we'll do that part of history because there's a point there in this journey. So yeah, Stevie Wonder, child prodigy, age of 11, starts singing and doing stuff in churches, picked up by Motown, joins the Motown Revue, has a big hit with Fingertips, which is do you know Fingertips? It's like a sort of harmonica extended jam. It was
yeah.
Youngest number one ever, all of that. This is 1963. But basically what he did for the rest of the 60s, and I have to say I haven't delved deep, is that kind of classic 60s album thing, especially, Motown knew how to shift units, right? Where you have a single or two and then you release an album on the back of that. which perhaps isn't as good. So, and so there'd be some, he was writing some of it, but very poppy, and there'd be, lots of covers versions. And you only have to look at the titles, actually, to know what sort of thing is being released. Because we all know, there's a single called Uptight, so there's an album called Uptight, and we know that there was a single called For Once in My Life, so there was an album called For Once in My Life. But there was also albums called Someday at Christmas, Stevie at the Beach, Tribute to Uncle Ray. So, it just smacks even the titles of we've got this this product that we're selling and he's brilliant, but it's not got the artistic integrity that the 70s classic period has.
Well, that suggests a few things. One, that
go on,
he evolved at the same time that the idea of popular music as an art form evolved, at the same time that the technology to record an album length work evolved. It's kind of all that post Sgt. Pepper reinvention of pop music, right? Reimagining of it not just being a single and some other songs that sound the same but not as good. And maybe he was late to the party because he was trapped into the Motown machine, but wow.
Well, late in terms of he'd already had a 10-year career, but when this album came out, he was 22.
And it's his 15th album.
I know.
Yeah.
Insane, right? So actually what happened, you're right. There was that, music was changing, but Stevie hits 21. So he becomes an adult. He gets his money. He gets, and so he doesn't leave Motown, but he sets himself up much more independently. At the age of 20, he married a lady called Sarita Wright, who was 24. And she was a big influence. And so
co-writer on the last 3 songs on this album.
Yeah. Well, no, just 2 of them, but we'll come on to that. So what happens is...
my source, Wikipedia, says 3, okay?
No, you're
right. Yvonne Wright, sorry.
It's Yvonne Wright, and they're not related. Yeah. So he starts to do albums that are his, very much not with a commercial bent, but him exploring his relationships, politics, and way different musical experimentation. So, and the classic 4-5 albums start with Music of My Mind. That's a pretty clear statement of this is my mind now.
Which I also own and enjoy.
Yeah.
And probably weirdly had played more than Talking Book. I don't know why. I have no idea.
I mean, it was so difficult to decide whether to go Music of My Mind, Talking Book, Inner Visions, or Fulfillingness, First Finale. And of course, he tops those 4 off at the age of 25 with Songs in the Key of Life, which is a double album. But I didn't pitch that one because it's a double album. All right, so...
so my preconceptions are, he's the happy man behind the piano, but I didn't really appreciate what an auteur he was. So the big thing that really struck me about this record, right, Dave, is I had no effing idea that he, literally played everything on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the drums.
Yeah. Even the drums.
And that there isn't really bass apart from the first track. It's just this is astounding.
It's all moogie moogie moog bass, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so thick and funky and out of this world. And have you noticed how the songs kind of speed up, slow down? There's no click track. It's also organic. It's this beautiful period where, as I say, the text there, but the vision is wide open. There's nothing holding him back anymore.
Well, so I tell you, there's so much to talk about around that. But I mean, first question I have to say, and you've kind of said, so what did you think of it, Rob? In a nutshell,
Dave. Every time we do this, the other one either goes, look, either A, it's I hated it, or B, it's really good, but guess what my but is in this case?
A couple of the ballads.
Yeah, but even that would be picking hairs. There isn't a but, is there? There is no weak song on this record. This is the closest thing to a perfect album we've ever approached. I mean, this is the most pointless podcast we've ever recorded. I mean, anyone listening to this knows it's brilliant and has far more eloquent and qualified people to talk about it than us. This is just us having fun. Let's be honest. We're ending the season
fair
high.
enough. Yeah, okay, no, exactly, and that's how I feel. It is just.
What can we say about this record that hasn't been said? And of course it's fantastic, and it's just to my regret that I hadn't sat down with it. And when I did sit down with it, Dave, I knew it better than I thought I did, but I still didn't know it. That's the point. Obviously, You're the Sunshine of My Life is known.
Yeah.
Superstition is Gnome. I think maybe Your Baby. I was and Tuesday Heartbreak, and You Got It Bad Girl. I think all of these I knew. Side 2 was a bit unfamiliar, but Blame It on the Sun.
Yeah.
Maybe. I definitely know I believe. I don't know where I've heard it, but that's such a big chorus. So it's kind of like at least half this record seeps to my consciousness anyway. I don't know what circumstances, because it's not like these are classic songs that I could have told you I knew, but
it's just known in the.
It's a bit like, you pitching me Abbey Road, me being like, oh, guess what? I've heard of this guy called Maxwell Silverhammer, but I have no idea how. It's just because it's been, it's just. That is it. It's a work that monumental. It's a bit like saying you've never heard Abbey Road or the White Album. It's like, what was I, like I say, I've owned a copy and just never really paid attention. Yeah. I
can only go back in my defense, and I think you're right in that, so what happened is I bought the 5 big ones and thought they were absolutely brilliant. I perhaps have never realised until doing this podcast, you're absolutely right. The world agrees and thinks they're absolutely brilliant. And I go back to my defence, which is I just thought Stevie was, I just called to say I love you. And so therefore for me, when I first heard I did them in order, being me, so I listened to music in my mind, loved it, and then I put this on. I was like, and You Are My Sunshine comes on, and you go, well, that's a really well-known pop tune, and it's lovely and it's fantastic. But then Maybe Your Baby comes on, and you just
which is funky as hell, right? And it's so brave to put that long jammy one.
I know, second. And you just go, and every time you listen to it, you think he just got into a jam and went, no, I'm doing it for 8 or 9 minutes, and I don't care, and I don't care either, because I can listen to that for hours.
But that's the funny part, right? Because it's freewheeling jam, and I think when I have heard this record before, I've assumed that he's doing like a getting in 3 or 4 session people who are all just jamming, and he's just maybe on one set of keys and scatting maybe. But I didn't realize there's like, I don't know, 4 however many different keys parts stacked on top of each other, which are all him, and he's just jamming along with himself. And I never really clocked that there wasn't a bass, that it was all coming from the Moog, and how seminal that and kind of iconic those sounds are, and how this was probably one of the first times to really use it, and all those kind of squelchy, sexy 70s funk cliches, which I love. I mean, this must be one of the first things. And to put that second on the record, this big, impenetrable, just it's like, it's fatter than like, or it's as fat as anything like Sly Stone did, right? It's like, it's up there with like,
definitely. Yeah, no, and you're right, because to realise that it's not, because you get that, okay, they were just jamming in a room and it went on too long, and they thought, well, let's have it. But he has decided, I'm laying down this track for this length, and then I'm going to jam more for this length. Yeah, incredible.
That's what's great about not just this track, but the whole record. It feels really fresh and spontaneous and in the room. Yet clearly it is quite composed. So it's almost like he's jamming with himself, and I think he probably was inspired by probably the Beatles and people that were like really experimenting with different layers. And this was the era of like going, oh, we don't just have to have like, the drums doing this, the bass doing this, and then having a melody on top. It's like we can stack this stuff and make it groovy as hell. And I think that's really epitomized in the David Sanborn solo, right? Which, I love how like there's basically no one in it apart from his backing vocals, and then he just gets like an A-list saxophonist, and then Jeff Beck on guitar just to swim by, and you could tell both of them contribute solos that are clearly like first takes because they're off the top of their head. But the beginning of Tuesday Heartbreak, it's like you can hear Sanborn seemingly just like running a scale, and I think the story is like basically Stevie said, I'll just play. He said, play me it once, and I'll just jam along and get the changes. And Stevie has recorded that, and it's like you can hear him kind of finding the key, and then just jamming on it, and go, okay, I'm ready for the take. And he's like, no, we got it. And the Jeff Beck solo as well, like it's brilliant. But you can tell that a man like Jeff Beck would have gone back and done something. He would have ended it with a greater flourish and more theatricalness. It's brimming with spontaneity, but it was obviously very, very kind of like studiously. Well, not studiously, but it was clearly conceptualized and put together with a certain amount of foresight, right? I mean, wow. Yeah.
Well, it was massively worked out. It's probably the time also because you've mentioned the different sounds and the experimentation. So as well as music was changing, and he was married with Sarita Wright, and they're writing together, and he wanted to express himself more, etc., etc. And he clearly apparently in terms of choosing songs, well, apparently there was way more songs for this than, and many of them ended up on Innovision. So it wasn't like
I thought these sessions were the same as Music Fills My Mind, or was it just he was just always recording and just stuff?
I think it was a bit like Neil Young and the 70s, like just so many songs, and they just and you choose which ones you're going to put on the album eventually,
right?
And it just it was brimming. So I think the album as a kind of these are definitely going to be the songs on it wasn't crafted, but every single song is clearly crafted, and he's doing that all the time, and he just decides to put these on it, and it's a fantastic mix of upbeat funk, political statement, ballads, etc. So that all works. The other thing to say though is the sound experimentation. So it's co-produced by Stevie and Bob Margouleff and Malcolm Cecil. Do you know anything about them?
No, only that apparently they were like set him free for this, right? That's what the idea I got.
So they, get this, were basically they took a Moog synthesizer and took it into something called Tonto. Especially Malcolm Cecil, it's basically still the largest analog synthesizer in the world ever. Mainly because it was pretty much the first. So, over time they got smaller and it's gone digital, etc. But basically they built this thing called Tonto, which stands for the Original New Timbral Orchestra. And importantly, it's multi-timbral and polyphonic. So polyphonic, meaning it can play more than one sound at a time.
Like more than one note.
Yeah. Right? But multi-timbral, because Malcolm Cecil says he didn't want it just to be, you play a chord and every note is the same sound, the same string sound. It's actually different. You can dial in different sounds to each key as well. So as you're playing, so essentially.
The most obvious way you could apply that is obviously playing a bass line with your left hand and do the funky stuff.
Exactly. But you can do all kinds of things, and it blows my mind anyway that this is all analog. So this is all kind of, I don't really understand. Bits of electricity being instantly turned into sound waves and modulated and stuff. There's nothing digital or stored around this. This is all just being created with wires and boxes and valves and stuff. And if you see the photograph of Tonto, it's 1.8 meters tall and 20 feet and 6.1 meters in diameter, a big circular thing. It's this huge bloody thing. Yeah. And basically, it was the cutting edge of electronic music at that point. And they released an album called Zero Time, which was kind of well received but didn't really sell, but lots of musos loved it. And Stevie, bless him, Motown pop person, said, I want that. And and blew his mind as well, obviously as a guy that's just all about the keyboards, and went nah. And so I think Tonto and Bob Margouleff and Malcolm Cecil was a bigger part of these 4 classic albums. I presume it was on Songs of the Key of Life as well as anything else, because it was just this had never been done before. People inventing new sounds through electronics. We take it so much for granted now, but this was just completely new and mind-blowing. And it could have so easily, as happened in the 80s,
sounded shit.
Yeah, and just go, look, it's a new sound, that's it. But what they did was meld this incredible sense of groove and rhythm and soul with amazing melodies with all this experimentation, and came up with this. So that was the final bit of the mix. Bob Margouleff and Malcolm Cecil and their Tonto Exploding Headband.
So basically, are you saying this was the first synthesizer?
I think
as opposed to like organ or Moog or whatever.
Yeah, people would. It's the first multi-timbral polyphonic synthesizer.
Sure.
Other machines were synthesizing sounds, but this was the first one to do the whole lot. Yeah.
I mean, there's just all these different keyboard textures that I don't think the world had really heard before, or not as widely and not used together, and that's why it's you had a guy that was just playing a Hammond the whole gig or whatever, right? Like you didn't have these layers, and I guess this probably influenced those classic Herbie Hancock records, right? I mean, I guess he was messing around with Simpsons stuff loads in pre-Headhunters, right? In all the Sextant albums, right?
I'm bowing to your knowledge there.
Anyway, right?
I've got to just read you one last thing about the whole Tonto. Their first album, someone reviewed it in Sounds in the UK. And it just made me laugh because the reviewer said, it's a work of considerable magnitude, forging a heavy wedge into the unknowns of electronic music, which a lot of good musicians will swear is one of the main directions we are headed. I just I love that idea. That it's not, this could be a thing, this electronic music. We don't know. I mean, it might take off or it might go the way of the electric cello. Who knows, But I think it's fair to say that it did kind of, get a little bit of steam behind it.
It did, but it did take nearly a decade, really, before,
did.
this... I mean, yeah, sure, electronic keyboards were getting more and more prevalent, but it was still kind of all rock and roll, and then it was... then it was employed in prog, but then punk came along. It wasn't really until the 80s.
Yeah, it took a while, didn't it? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Anyway,
so back to the album. You Are My Sunshine.
Quintessential wedding banger. Yeah.
Quintessential wedding banger. I love the fact that for some reason he decides for somebody else to sing the first opening line.
I know.
What's that about?
And the second as well as somebody else, right? I think he's the third voice we hear.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so there's a female, which I kind of more get the female vocals because it's different, but it's a bit like Prince's 1999. That does the same thing. I don't know whether that's an ode to it, where you just go, well, why is there somebody else singing the bloke part? Jim Gilstrap anyway has the dubious honour of being the person that opens it. And if you look up Jim Gilstrap, he had a sort of career afterwards, probably just on the strength of being the person that sang the first two lines of it, and he became a guest vocalist on kind of smooth jazz albums and tours and things. I imagine, I don't know, but imagine, just introduced as, and here's Jim Gilstrap, who sung the first two lines on You Are the Sunshine of My Life. But
does he come back? Because the female vocals throughout it, right? But does he just sing those first two lines?
I don't think he does. In the second verse, I think it's Stevie does it from there on in. He just comes in and does that. Yeah. Anyway, written for and about Sarita Wright, because they got married and but they got divorced. Sarita Wright and Stevie Wonder. It's kind of as this album was being done.
No way.
And it was a very amicable divorce. They just said they were too young and it didn't work out. And Stevie went on and she did some solo albums and Stevie helped produce them, etc. But actually, if you look at the two songs that he wrote with Sarita, it was "Blame It on the Sun," where it was basically about a relationship ending and it's your fault, but you're blaming it on them, and "Looking for Another Lover."
Okay.
But how do you sit in your room with your, I can't remember the quite time, but it's soon to be divorced or divorced, significant other, and write "Looking for Another Lover." So I think you can say it was very amicable. Let's put it that way.
Well, maybe that was how their tension was, resolved.
Yeah, resolved. There you go. Anyway, You Are My Sunshine was obviously written pre all of that because it was about Sarita and its lovely song. Maybe a Baby we've talked about. Okay, then we get to You and I. What did you think of You and I?
I mean, it's probably the weakest track if there is one, right? Because it's the cheesiest. Yeah. And it's maybe a little bit too early. I think the classic kind of flow of a 5-track side of Vinyl would be kind of 3 upbeat songs, 4th song ballad, end on a high, or even end on the ballad, But putting the ballad coming after Maybe Your Baby...
You could say Maybe Your Baby is kind of 2 upbeat songs in one, though, but yeah.
Yeah, no, fair. And You've Got It Bad is bitching, but it is kind of smouldering and low-key. So having Tuesday Heartbreak coming out of that, it works.
Yeah, it does.
But I do wonder if that's why I haven't spent more time with this album, because I seem to know Maybe Your Baby well, so I feel like maybe I've played those first two, got to the third one a few times, and just gone, this is the Stevie Wonder of my parents, of the 80s cliches, of Part-Time Lover, of It's Cool to Say I Love You, and I'm done. And therefore not gone on to hear, all these brilliant songs. Because You've Got It Bad, Girl, I think, and maybe I know the Quincy Jones version, actually. Like, that's quite possible.
Could be.
So, yeah.
That could be it. No, and I agree. You and I, if I do skip, I mean, it's grown on me. And I tell you what, as a vocal performance, it's incredible. I mean, it certainly showcases what an incredible set of pipes he had, and that's great. But it just the one I always think it sort of is similar to is Blame It on the Sun. It's the other sort of definite ballad on it, but Blame It on the Sun's, when it starts Blame It on the Sun, you think, oh, is this going to be enough? But it's got such a killer melody for the chorus. It can do anything. But You and I just seems to slightly lack a killer melody. It's a little bit ballad by numbers. So out of all of everything,
I mean, I
probably
think
is.
I think lesser artists have built careers around weaker songs than that, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, but then you get Tuesday Heartbreak, which is just this moment of sublime pop. I mean, just, you just go, you could do that as well, can you? And maybe that's what... Yeah, and maybe that's what he was doing. It's like first 4 songs, You Are My Sunshine, Maybe Your Baby, You and I, Tuesday Heartbreak. Who else can do that? Just incredible. We are now just going to run through and say how brilliant everything is. You Got It Bad Girl. I can't. Is it pop? Is it jazz? Is it funk? Is it soul? Is it just Stevie? It's just Stevie, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. If you were going to introduce Stevie Wonder to someone who never heard him, I wouldn't play Superstition. I'd probably play You've Got It Bad Girl. You know what I mean? Because it has got that, like... Yeah, there's something about those chords that are just,
And then you have side 2, which opens with Superstition, which, what did you think of Superstition? Do you know what?
Never heard that one, oddly.
Do you know what, though?
I have a bit of PTSD from playing it in bands myself, because, it's an E-flat, which is just really annoying for guitarists, right?
Yeah.
And,
I actually didn't, but fair enough.
But no, obviously it is a great song. I always think there's a mark of there's great songs that you get sick of, and then truly great songs that you can never hear too often. And there's not many, like even some Stone songs that I can hear too many times, but then Brown Sugar I can hear till I die, and I think Superstition is on the border for me, but I do acknowledge that it's fantastic. So
I think it might be the one for me. It is a classic song that I've never got tired of, and there's never a moment when it's dull. Or and there's been a whole podcast on the whole song, but just that moment when the horns come in, and you just go.
Well, yeah, I just love the way it goes, like down a step, back up a step. It's just like, it's
the arrangement, but
and obviously the riff is.
Well, so fascinating fact about it. So Jeff Beck came in to do the guitaring just on Looking for Another Lover. Yeah, but the drum beat, the famous drum beat of Superstition, that was Jeff Beck.
No.
Yeah. So what happened was Jeff Beck they did the takes and everything, and he was just mucking around on drums, and it was recorded, and Stevie Wonder went, oh, that's nice, and started vamping the famous, just can you imagine that? Jeff Beck's playing drums, Stevie sits down and starts just going, I mean, it's got to be a movie, maybe it is a movie. Anyway, and so the song was, great. And then Stevie went, okay, thanks for that, and went off and re-recorded it. So Stevie playing the drums on it, but it was Jeff Beck that came up with the groove to start with. That's how it was made.
Wow, that's interesting. But apart from the horns, it is all Stevie again, right? Which again I think is incredible. It does sound like a band jamming in a room, like
How do you make it not sound clinical when you're? It's just layered and obviously not. Because
he's just innately funky. He just,
Yeah. Okay, and then you get to my favourite segue between 2 songs. Not my favourite, but one of my top. The Superstition
favourite non-prog.
In non-prog, going into Big Brother. I mean, it's just incredible. Hairs on the back of the moment, and Big Brother itself. Blimey, Stevie's got a bit passionate in this album, but Big Brother, wow.
When I finally played it all the way through for the first time at your urging, that was the one that really struck me, because I knew he could do, cool funky shit, and I knew he could pen a decent ballad. I guess he'd be able to write a decent ballad, right? But this was the one where I was like, whoa, what is this kind of like really stripped down, bluesy, political sounding, rousing, grabbing the moment song. Yeah, Big Brother is It was the greatest. It was the greatest surprise for me, for sure.
Yeah, and the anger that comes through in his that, especially to the last couple of verses when he gives it. My name is secluded. We live in a house the size of a matchbox. Roaches live with wall to wall. Just, I mean, the passion in his voice is incredible. And it's kind of every time. And then he sings the next lyrics. You've killed all our leaders, but I don't even have to do nothing to you. You'll cause your own country to fall. I've been listening to this album a lot with Trump going on, and you're just like, it's It just makes me think of Donald Trump all the time, and it's 40 years later. It's an incredible song.
It's 53 years late.
53 years later, and still sadly.
This album's even older than you.
Okay. Right? No, I'm 54 now. So it was released in 72, wasn't it? So yeah, no, it's a year younger than me. Okay, then we get Blame It on the Sun. Actually, I love it. It's a good, really, really lovely ballad. Looking for Another Lover, and I believe they're just incredibly strong, amazing songs.
And having those two chill songs so close together doesn't risk, lowering the temperature at all. It's just as engaging, and yeah. And then I believe, this is the other really cheesy one, but because the chorus is so strong, it's got a tinge of the Disney theme about it, right? But I think because it comes at the end of the record, you can kind of forgive it. It's like you've gone through this big charge, funky, pure political charge moments, and then you kind of got these three beautiful things at the end. Yeah, you're right. I think there probably is one ballad too many on this record, for me. But this is a pop album at the end of the day, and the fact that you have still got a Maybe Your Baby and you got a Bad Girl and a Big Brother.
Yeah.
As things play out, this is pretty wonderful stuff.
Yeah, the thing about I Believe, it's just such a bit like New York I Love You off LCD. It's such a great album closer. It's like one of those songs you write and go, that's an album closer. And it kind of makes you want to, I don't know what it is music, it kind of makes you want to, go back to track 1 side A again, because it just kind of opens it all up again. Yeah.
And it's not a short album, but in my head it goes by and whips by in half an hour or less. It's one of those ones you think is really slight, but it's actually, it's well into 43 minutes. Like it's packed wax. It's just it's such a joy to whiz through.
So okay, well look, this has kind of been more of a, it hasn't been an introducing you, it's been more of a nudging you to something you already had but hadn't given the time, but now you have and you love it. Where is the place to listen to Stevie?
I think anywhere, anytime, any place. Like, there's so many moods and textures in this record. You could, it could uplift a rainy day, and yet it could soundtrack a sunset perfectly. So yeah, I'm sorry. This album is just too, I shouldn't use the word perfect, but too omni-mooded, too textured, too pastel hued, too vibrant, too technicolor to really put into any box.
I agree.
I just like that I'm finally listening to my, second charity shop copy, despite all its warps and pops. And in some ways, that's always adding to it, to be honest, because it does feel like classic and timeless.
If I was to ever go back into the world of vinyl, and
this would be the first thing you buy.
The big 5 Wonder albums, that would be almost the reason to go. That I probably do get actually this album on vinyl would be, so there's just a sound to it that's very early 70s, and you want to go well, it's early 70s and timeless at the same time, isn't it?
So this is when I can tell you my journeys into Stevie Wonder have been entirely based on whatever vinyl I've discovered over the years. So I've never had any versions or heard a note of it, or never had a note of Final Finale.
Okay, filling is fair for now. I know we say this, and it's like, you've listened to this, you must listen to this, but if you think Talking Book is the classic album it is, you must fucking pick up Innovisions.
So I'm going to go back to Music of My Mind properly, give that another listen.
Yeah.
Why is Innovisions better than that?
Okay. So the big 5.
Just do them in order. Just
do them in order. Right. So you got Music of My Mind was there's actually an album called Where I'm Coming From, which is kind of thought, is it in the classic period? Is it not? But let's ignore that for now. Music of My Mind, the first, he was in total command of everything. And for me, the first side of it is up there with Talking Book, and I'll come on to Innovisions. It's brilliant. There's a track called I Love Having You Around. There's Superwoman. That's an amazing song. But I've got to be honest, the second half kind of fades a little bit. And the fade starts with a track called Sweet Little Girl, which is supposed to be a little bit kind of jokey. Ooh, sweet little girl, come on. And he does this kind of sort of chatty up thing, and it's just a little bit nasty taste. It just doesn't. It's a bit creepy. So I tend to listen to just side A of music in my mind. Others would say, when you Google top Stevie Wonder albums, these 5 albums, they bounce up and down. Although I don't think I've ever seen a list where Music on My Mind is number 1, but it's really strong, and the first half especially is really strong. Then you got Talking Book.
Can I say no? Because some people seem to say the classic period begins with Talking Book. It's almost like Music in My Mind.
Yeah,
isn't quite. I think people like the idea of a Big Four. There was a Big Four Stones. There's, I don't know. Probably done the same with the Beatles. The Big Four Zeppelin. The Big Four is just a thing, and I feel like this one, Music in My Mind, is considered a borderline. I don't know. You tell me. I
don't know. I mean, it's still a bloody great album. Okay. Talking Book, we've talked about. Inner Visions, as I said, it's up there with Talking Book. But
mood wise and kind of texturally, is it same kind of mix of ballad and
mix
funk
of stuff? Yeah, you got High Ground, Too High, Too
High.
Oh,
I know that one.
Yeah. Living for the City, great funk melody. There's politics in it as well. Mr. Know-It-All as another. So for someone that kind of writes, his ballads are a bit cheesy. When he gets onto politics, he's not cheesy at all, or he's just. It's like you've been Stevied. Do you know what I mean? Like slapped you. He just slaps politicians down, and that's brilliant. It's got Don't You Worry About a Thing on it. You probably know that. Don't you worry about a thing.
So it's probably a bit like this album. I probably know half of it already.
You probably do. Yeah, it's just great, and it's every bit as good as Talking Book. So you should just listen to that. Fulfilling His First Finale, much more kind of mature and ballady. If you like. So it's a little bit more laid back. So therefore, if you're in that mood and if people dig that, then they say that's the best one.
But is it more You've Got It Bad Girl ballady, or is it more You and I ballady?
Both. And that's probably why I would rate it a little bit. There's some really good stuff on it. And there's some really clever, complex musical stuff on it. And then sometimes you're like, you got a little bit cheesy there. But it does have the brilliant, again, political slapdown, You Haven't Done Nothing, which is a funky anti-Nixon song that's just, buy it just for that, basically, song, because that's brilliant. But that stands out a little bit to the rest of the album. But it's still really, really good. Such that, I can't quite remember all of them, but I mean, I think all 4, or at least 3 out of the 4, one album of the year Grammy kind of thing. And Paul Simon eventually, when he won a Grammy in like 75 or 76, when Stevie had stopped for a bit, and Paul Simon at the awards ceremony, all he said was to accept it was, "Can I just thank Stevie Wonder for not making an album this year?" Because that was,
I feel like you've told me that story before because it's so bloody good. But yes,
yeah. But and hats off to Paul Simon for that as well. But yeah, that just shows you the dominance and the strength of those albums. And Songs in the Key of Life, there is it's got Sejuk on it, it's got Isn't She Lovely on it, it's got Pastime Paradise, which of course became Gangster's Paradise. It's got I Wish, so it's really strong. I guess you could argue, like every double album ever in the 70s, it was probably, you could argue 3/4 of 1 3/4 actual albums, but that's splitting hairs. It's really, really good as well.
But is it again the same kind of mix of sounds?
It's
not like he did a really, really funky album or a really, really
No. Fulfilling His First Finale, very much more laid back like this, but everything else,
the rest stuff,
he just threw everything on. Yeah.
So, Hotter Than July, which I think comes next. This is kind of fun and funky. That's why I bring it up, right?
Yeah, well, so what happened was after Songs in the Key of Life, which was 75, when he was 25... he was 25.
His 20th album or whatever, yeah. 19,
and it maybe, just, I know. To be fair, well, you could argue he meander. He was producing other people's stuff, but he didn't kind of have a big album
thing, right? He did that soundtrack to Plants.
So he did a soundtrack to a film called The Secret Life of Plants, and the album is called Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants. I think it's a double. It's on my list of, I really, really must listen to that one day, because the reviews sound fascinating. It's because the reviews are like not well received, but others going, no, this is an incredible masterwork. It sounds right up my street of like, it's a bit obscure and he tried something that batch didn't come off, but maybe it did. I don't know. But I've got to give. And also, Stevie Wonder, big commercial success, and he's done an album called Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants. What's that? It just sounds, got to give that a go.
Well, I mean, after you've done Superstition and Sir Duke and everything else, what do you do next? You're probably like, you've reached the top of the tree. You can become a parody of yourself, or you can try and do something different.
Yeah.
Well,
though, and so did that, and then I think Hotter Than July was 80. So it was 1980. It was 5 years after, and widely seen as kind of return to form ish, not quite as good as the classics, but really good. And of course, it had Happy Birthday to You, which was a massive hit. But did you know what Happy Birthday to You was about?
I assumed it was a birthday song.
Yeah, for Martin Luther King.
Oh,
yeah, and it became
nice one, white people.
Yeah. In all seriousness,
appropriating that like so widely, seriously.
Stevie Wonder. Well, I think if we were American, we'd know this. Basically, it became the theme song for the campaign, with Stevie Wonder fronting it and pushing it to have a national holiday for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. So it became a massive campaign to have a public holiday for MLK, which eventually they did. Right? It became in 1986. It became an MLK Day, but it was Stevie Wonder is largely seen as the figurehead of that, and Happy Birthday to You is the song behind it.
And then Ebony and Ivory. That's what everyone remembers.
Yeah. Well, and then I've got to be honest. I haven't done Stevie 80s or since then. He did Ebony and Ivory, which was actually not on an album of his. It was on Paul McCartney album. He did the Woman in Red soundtrack, which, of course,
I've seen that cover. And I've seen that in many a charity shop and never picked that one up. Well, every other Stevie Wonder album I've seen cheap, I've clearly bought, whether or not I've listened to them. That one I've avoided like the plague.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's got, it's I Just Called to Say I Love You. And that's where I first, because that was 84, so I first heard Stevie Wonder on Top of the Pops doing I Just Called to Say I Love You. So forgive me if I thought that was him, that because it was number one for 30 years, and that's what he did. Won an Oscar for it, so he's an Oscar winner as well as everything else. But I have to say, and I think I don't know. I'm just going on literally terrible reading, Wikipedia and all music. He did 3 albums in the 90s, 1 album in 2005. But
and then he has kept touring Superstition.
Yeah. But he kind of hasn't troubled the kind of it's not felt that he's kind of a strong musical force with his new writing. I'd have to say probably since the 80s.
Which is very sad. So you mentioned this kind of seeing him on Top of the Pops. How then did you fall in love with Stevie? What prompted you to do this deep dive? And what role has he played in your life?
Our Price Records were chucking out, it was like 2 CDs for £15 or something when I was in my late 20s. And I'd sort of always known...
We had too much money and not enough commitment.
Yeah. And I'd always known there was I'm sure Stevie's got more to him than that. So I bought the Big Four for 30 quid and took them home and listened to them in order and was just, mind blown. And have been, a massive fan of those albums. And I got Songs of the Key of Life as well. But I have to admit, not enough to have explored the 60s work or the 80s work, or indeed done Journey Through a Secret Life of Plants. But what it means to me, I think it's not like a really emotional thing for me, but I go back to it a lot, especially when I know it sounds awful, but it's long car journey. This is great because it keeps you going. It's really interesting. It's funky. It's everything you need for a long car journey. So that's probably my go-to with Stevie, which sounds awful, but
no, not at all.
I can't pretend like
I always said like drive. I always said driving and ironing were the 2 times I actually listen to music properly. And now I don't need to. No one needs to do ironing anymore because COVID happened. So
yeah.
And I don't have a car,
yeah.
so
you have a car. You're in Hong Kong. So when do you listen to music, man? How does it happen?
Well,
you
have to make time now.
Increasingly less. But that's it. I just think I think he's bloody brilliant. But it turns out so does the rest of the world. So it's not any great kind of pitch for this episode. But there you go. I got 2 other things to say. One is this was the first album with Braille on the cover.
Ah, yeah.
So it had Talking Book, the title, and his name in Braille for obvious reasons. But someone had to think about it, and he did. And secondly,
is it awful to ask? Was he always blind?
Yeah, so he
From birth,
was born 6 weeks premature, and the condition around that, something to do with blood loss or whatever, left him blind. I think he might have had like a couple of weeks or something or two, but yeah, and more than that. So it left him blind, and then in 1973, so in between Talking Book and Inner Visions, he was in a car accident and he was in a coma, and he lost quite a lot of. He lost quite a lot of his sense of smell and taste as well. So this kind of the easy cliche of he's brilliant at music because he can't see but my God, the guy's he's got hearing. So no, you wanted an easy cliche. No wonder he's bloody good at music, But I mean, talk about relating to the world through touch and hearing, because he's blind and his sense of smell and taste are also shot apparently. Final thing. Guess which US president Talking Book was the first out? Yes, of course it was Barack Obama's first album he bought. Whether there's a connection between that and Stevie Wonder receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama in 2014, history doesn't relate. He deserved it anyway, but Barack obviously loved the guy in every way, shape, form.
Wonderful. Well, Dave, I can only thank you for pushing me to embark on the Stevie journey I probably should have embarked on decades ago. I will make an effort to listen to all of the big four. Sure. Buy me a copy for Christmas. On that note, this concludes season 2 of Your Brother Should Know. We'll do a quick wrap, I think, and talk about the 8 albums we've discussed this season, and vote on which were the most successful sales. But I feel like it's pretty self-evident at this point. What's going to come up on top? And then we've got something special planned for the winter break.
Yes, we have. Do you want to say what it is?
Dave is going to mansplain the nerdiest of all preoccupations in rock, Frank Zappa.
Yeah, special feature-length episode on Frank Zappa. And then we will return, season 3. I already have a list. Yay! If you have been, thanks for listening.
Whoa.
Bye.